Okay, good morning and welcome everyone. On behalf of the Europe in Action project, which is an Erasmus Plus project, what we are running since 2 years now, so it's the 30th now. And welcome at the Sport Campus, Zuiderpark in The Hague, a beautiful venue. And welcome also for the online participants, because they are there as well. And so we have to have a look in the camera. There's also an audience here, but just to know for everyone, it's a combination of two groups. In our project group, we have partners, and they are here as well, so hopefully you can meet each other. It's partners from Slovenia, Poland, Portugal, Turkey, and from Tavisa, an international organization. And from Serbia and Cyprus, we have partners as well, but they are joining us online. My name is Dorien Dijk. I'm working at the Knowledge Center for Sports and Physical Activity. And well, yes, I hope we are going to have a beautiful meeting together. I'm going to moderate together with Jacqueline.
Yes, my name is Jacqueline Kronenburg, and I just remember that, of course, we also have a project partner in Greece. So just not to forget. So we participate in this interesting project that aims to connect global and European sport policies with national and regional sport for all organizations and municipalities. And today we focus on the subject of active cities. And that is one of the 13 themes we have selected together as important themes for the Sport for All movement. And more people live in urban areas. Today we will learn how many. And do we ensure that public space continues to be sufficiently inviting for sport and for exercise? This is an important question for all of us. And in the next hours, knowledge will be shared by our project team, by the European Commission, the City of Rotterdam and the City of The Hague, where we are now. And we count on your active participation, of course, in the Q&A. We are here with experts and policy advisors from the government, from NGOs, from all kinds of organizations from the Netherlands. And online, we have participants from 42 countries from all over the world. About 90 participants online, so that's very nice. But first, we gather here in the City of The Hague. And we know the City of The Hague is the city of peace and justice. But this year, it's also the European capital of sport. So this is very interesting. We had the alderman, Mr. Bredemeyer, but he couldn't come. But luckily, our project leader for the European Sport Capital, Krista Schofield, is available, and she will do the welcome words. So, Krista, the floor is yours.
Good morning, my name is Krista Schofield. I'm the project leader of the Hague European Capital of Sport, and we are very proud to host this first European Work Conference. Of course, we are also very proud to be the European Capital of Sport. To us, it's so important that these kinds of events are a good platform for sharing knowledge, like today. And practically, we just want to wish you a good conference and enjoy the games later on today. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Krista. So I'm going to show the program, or at least what we do until the break. So this is where we are now. We will have an active meeting, or we are talking about the Europe in Action project soon. And unfortunately, Carrie McDonald's, she's working at Tavisa's, but she got ill. She couldn't come to The Hague. So this was really sad. And but fortunately, we have Paulo Rocha. He's going to present about what we have done in the project. We have developed an education module about active cities. So he's coming in soon. And later on, we will have the good practice by Peter van Veen. He's here as well. And after that, we have a break. And in the afternoon or after the break, we're going to continue. We have a story of Rotterdam, and you will find out later on what is exactly on the program. We do nice things during the lunch break. In the afternoon, we have interactive program, but I will keep you informed during the day about what we are going to do. So this is.
Yeah, it's kind of sad for the people who are watching the live stream, because the group work in the afternoon and the keynote of Sanne de Vries and visiting the Invictus Games, which are taking place at the moment. Well, that's only for the people who are here live in The Hague. But let's welcome Paulo Rocha, who suddenly had to jump in for this presentation. And I'm certain that he will give his own flavor to the presentation that was prepared for the project. So, Paulo, the floor is yours.
So good morning to all. I don't know if you've seen already on the social media that that video that was circulating with a Chinese boy that was, embedding the words from the paper, trying to study in a short version. So yesterday we were working until night, and I was, making this.
We have a problem with the sound. Excuse me.
Oh, sound on. Okay. Technology. Still managing technology.
Yep.
Okay. So I will put it here. I will try not to use it, but we also don't have pointers, so we will try to manage the situation of, speaking and changing slides. So this is the outline of the presentation. We have some ideas, as you know, for all of you that are working under the Sports for All dimension. We have several areas of intervention especially when we are responsible for governmental organizations, like in my case, and George used to be my director until last month. And we have, of course, a lot of areas and dimensions to plan when we are dealing not only with the other national ministers and stakeholders at the cross-sectional perspective, but also when we are talking about, regional and local development with different complexities, with different ideas, and it's a difficult process when we are dealing with all of these dimensions. However, today we are looking at the questions related with active development and active regional development that Michael will speak a little bit after under the perspective of the European Commission and what is going on at that level. We have, of course, to take a look on the several 5 or 6 dimensions that we want to, let's say, put it here to reflection to all of you. So the first idea is to make a brief identification about the state of play, what is going on in the trends at European level. Secondly, we will try to identify the city setting, what is really happening on the city levels, and what are the benefits of this idea of, which is not new, but it's still trying to make its way forward, the active cities. It's not spread out all over Europe, as you know. And then we need to understand how the Sports for All can identify and support this new idea of creating an active strategy to empower the different stakeholders to develop the necessary work regarding the context in order to proceed and to get the things that we think that is important. And finally, question and answer. So before we start, I would invite Dorien to jump in and to make the first agita question.
Questions we have to get you also a little bit active. First question to you, just to know a little bit where we're from, how many inhabitants you live, or the place you live are there. So please stand up if you live in a city bigger than 50,000 inhabitants. Yeah, well, that's almost everyone. Almost everyone. Please sit down again. Let's see, stand up if you live in a city with more than 250,000 inhabitants. And hopefully the people at home will do this the same, just to have a little bit exercise. Don't you think, Paulo?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Well, it's less people. Oh yeah, well, The Hague probably. Just a guess. Okay, thank you. It's Lisbon there, I think, George. Yeah. So thank you, and Stacy. Yeah, I think you will win, Stacy. You are from Seoul. So Stacy came all the way from Korea to this meeting. That's also nice. Last question, stand up if you should be more active in your city. So it's not about how active you can be in your city, but just what you think of the behavior of yourself. So stand up if you think you should be more active. Yeah, me too. Oh, well. Most of the people are quite satisfied about how active they are, so that's very good. Yes, Paulo.
Well, so it's quite curious to understand that in fact most of you raised or some of you raised the need of being more active, because what we know, unfortunately, is that the last years and the last 20 years are very clear to demonstrate that there is a trend for people to get set in the big cities. So I'm coming from Portugal. We are seeing this already also in Portugal, where the rural areas are still or are increasingly having less people, and people tend to concentrate in the cities. So the normal cities will become bigger cities, and the big cities will become mega cities. And this is the trend. So if you look specifically on the European dimension, you can see that it is previewed in 2050 that the majority of the European citizens will live in urban areas, which means that there is a need to think the city in a new perspective, because the city is not at the moment responding to the needs of this increasing process, what we call urbanization. So if you take a look, for example, more specifically inside of Europe, you see that depending on the realities and the contexts, there are different rates of this process of urbanization. However, this is a trend that is common to all the countries in Europe. So it's not something that is part of a process on the Nordic countries or in the Central European countries or in the South countries. So it's global. And you can see, for example, in Netherlands, we are talking about in a 80% rate. If you see more closely the example of Netherlands, in 2020, we had more or less 77% or almost 80%. And we are expected now in 2020 almost to 90-something%, 93, I think. So it's a dramatic situation for the stress in the cities, and this situation makes all of us a big question. What is the role of sport in all this process of urbanization? How can sport contribute to this process and to try to find a better health, environmental perspective when people are coming to the cities and trying to get the response to the challenges that are put in? And here we identified 5 major challenges that sport is directly related with this process. First of all is the city planning. It's a new way of designing cities and how the facilities will need to be organized in order to be planned according to the new needs and according to the setting of the people. For example, in other areas of Portugal, we know that some of the cities are concentrating very old people, senior people, which has specific needs in terms of sport, not only in terms of infrastructure and services, but there are also other areas where the young generations are more available or more prevalent. So we need to understand how to cope with this. The second dimension, which is starting again, well, in Portugal last Easter was already amazing. Thousands and thousands of people in Lisbon, and for sure in other areas in Algarve, as you know. But is the power of sport with mega events and with small scale events to lead the active tourism, which is a new area of tourism, as you know, the green tourism, the blue tourism, the ag tourism, which is already starting to having an exploding moment, at least in the southern countries. Then we have other 2 or 3 areas which are important. The question about social cohesion, which was very, very stressed during this pandemic situation. I will not go further on this, but the social model related to our seniors must be revised because it failed, completely failed. So we were having people in institutions waiting to get up, waiting to go to bed, waiting to eat, and waiting for COVID, and sometimes waiting to die. So this is not the model of development for the social perspective in terms of Europe model. So we need to understand how sport can, and there is some nice examples already, for example, in Spain, where small cities organize themselves as a huge resort with seniors. So there are very, very nice examples already going on. Also, in terms of research and innovation, it was one of the themes of our presidency in Portugal last 2 semesters ago about innovation and the role of innovation inside of sport, of course. And then the question about healthy and active communities, which is also a very, very important area in this dimension. There are already some initiatives. Michael will speak about one of these initiatives. I will not go through it related with share, but you know, well, the representative of the Hague capital of sport is here. There is a friend and some friends of Nuno Delgado, which was the former representative of the Lisbon European capital of sport, was last year. Well, with difficulties with the pandemic, so it was very, very different from the situation that you are having now here. Hopefully good for you. But there are other Erasmus Plus projects which have been looking for the questions related with how sport and municipalities can in fact look upon regional development and how to cope with the different challenges in the different dimensions in this area. But the question is now, what are the opportunities and what are the challenges that we are facing in all these dimensions with sport? And if you take a look, and we don't want to go too deep on this, and we will have time to further go in the afternoon, but at the municipality level, at the regional level, not only with municipalities itself, but with the coordination agencies that are directly linked with the governmental bodies and all the local stakeholders, not only from sports sector, but also from the social sector and economical sector, private sector, of course. It is important that we understand what are the opportunities and what are the needs and the challenges that we are facing with the new demanding from this urbanization process. And in fact, the question about infrastructures, how we are going to deal with the Green Deal, how we are going to promote the adaptation and the readjustment of infrastructures to cope, for example, with the Green Deal launched by the Commission, to cope with the 2030 United Nations agenda with sustainable development goals. This is not a conversation, this is real stuff, this is objective actions, and the infrastructures, the strategy, the allocated budget, which is still in the sport area under previewed in all of the dimensions, not only at national level, but also at regional and local level. And of course, the capacity and what we have been discussing at European level, and also at national level, the capacity building that is necessary to give to these stakeholders, because some of them are voluntary, as you know, and when you are voluntary, you have less opportunities to be sometimes involved on the process, and sometimes in very complex process of associated, for example, with budget. That's one of the issues. But cooperation and sustainability are part also of these keys. So I don't need to take too much time to say that this social model that we are also discussing, well, we discussed during the French presidency. I think that Michael also take a good look on this discussion about the social model, or the sports model, the European sports model, where we understand that in fact there are externalities of the model that are in fact very important for the society. If we know, for example, that in Europe every year more or less 70 billion euros is what we expend in extra costs related with the fact that people don't do enough physical activity and sometimes don't eat properly, it's more or less the same amount of money as Europe has expended, as we have to bail out some of the countries in the past years. So there is a lot of things to do when we understand that if we can mobilize 20% of the people, of those people that don't do physical activity, and start doing, we can provide to the system more, almost 60 to 20 billion euros. This is enough money to put energy, and when we are talking about energy, we put money into the system, into the sport system, and making the local system to have enough resources to work. So, of course, now everybody speaks about the individual perspective of this model. Everybody wants in this, let's say, narcissistic perspective, healthy perspective from nowadays. Everyone wants to be healthy until as far as possible. So we know the health benefits of the sports model. And in fact, the idea is that we can prolong the quality of life, and especially the functionality and the independence of this population, which are, in fact, in some of the countries, again, in the southern countries, I speak for ourselves, it's a big burden, and the national health systems are not being able to cope with these expenses. So it's quite clear that we need to do something more clear on this area. But I want you also to highlight that these externalities are not only in the individual perspective. There are, of course, the economical dimension, which is huge. We know that, again, we need to focus on the statistics of economics at the European level. We are giving another steps to get another dimension or another edition of the satellite accounts, which already gave some light about the impact of sport in the economy, with some nice, curious and interesting values. But you have also the question about safety, about the environmental perspective. Now it's on the day discussion, the healthy and the social dimension. So it is inevitable to consider that the sport have all of these externalities. But in fact, it's still a long way to pass this to the public opinion and to make this something mainstream. It's not mainstream. It's mainstream for us, that we are on the sports sector, but it's not mainstream for society. This is still another topic that comes in the end of the paper or in the ends of the news, and it's not relevant. And if you take a look on how the countries put sport inside of a resiliency and recovery program, you can understand what I'm saying. So it's very easy to understand. When something is important, you put money. When something is not important, you don't put money. So it's very easy to understand. So taking a look on the sports for all, and here we take a look only for the active population. We are not looking closely to the questions or the challenges related with the youngsters, which is also a nice and important area. That's another story, or with the seniors. But we just give the example of the active people, so the people that is working on the working age. And here you have what are the main, let's say, dimensions of life that people are engaged with during their active life. So we have the leisure time, progressively less time spent in leisure time, more time spent in home activities now with work, also at home, and more time working at home. So it was one of the trends of the pandemic situation. The question about transportation was a little bit changed during the pandemic. I give an example from my city, Lisbon, where we didn't have dolphins before in Tagus River, before the pandemic, and during the pandemic they returned. And now, if you go to Lisbon, there still are dolphins on Tagus River. So there is a lot about movement of people. When you have 600,000, 700,000 normally of citizens in a city, and during the day you receive another 1 million or 1.5 million, and then at the end of the day they come back. So this has a huge impact in the cities, of course, and in the surrounding environments. And then the question about work, of course, and the situation through pandemic. I think we are all in this mixed situation, sometimes working in the office, sometimes at home, and people are understanding that probably this could be a very nice model that we need to adjust, but it has some advantages. So finally, we leave 5 areas for reflection where we identified the 5 key areas that could be, let's say, highlighted in terms of when we are trying to discuss with the different stakeholders the key areas to identify what could be a successful strategy in this area. So the first, I think it's very easy to go through them. The first one is knowledge and awareness. The second one, cooperation and partnership. The third one, programs and events. Then the places and the spaces. And finally, what sometimes we miss a lot, we don't monitor, we don't evaluate, and we don't adjust. Sometimes some people come and want to make reforms, and everything that was done was put it aside, and we create another reform and do it again. So we never take enough time to evaluate and to identify what could be done best. So very, very briefly, first of all, we need to include the 3 setting or segments of the population when identifying the questions about knowledge and awareness. We need to put inside the leaders and the decision makers. We need to engage citizens. Sometimes, or most of the times, we don't engage citizens. We are thinking that what we are developing for them, it's the best Coca-Cola in the desert, but they don't know that it's the best Coca-Cola in the desert, so they don't care. And then the strategy fails. So, of course, citizens, and then we need to improve the capacity of sport organizations, and the local stakeholders, which sometimes are working in their own microcosmos, but they are not linking with the older strategy, and they are missing the way and the way to go forward. So this is the first idea. So knowledge and awareness. The second idea is about cooperation. We are, I think, with the Erasmus Plus, I can say this, with the Erasmus Plus in the last decade, I think that there was greater awareness in Europe, the need of working together in sustainable networks and listening other realities, other countries, other best practices, and trying to spin off these in our countries and in our realities. And I think the Erasmus Plus was very, very important in this process, not only at the university level, but also in the sport sector level. But aside from this, the question about cross-sectoral cooperation should be the crucial area in this dimension, because sports sometimes don't speak with other sectors, or when it speaks, it's a short debate. It's not a full mouth debate, and we need to assume ourselves with the capacity of having a full mouth debate and working together in a cross-sectoral perspective. It's difficult, even at ministerial level. We know it's not easy to do it, but to walk side by side with the finance dimension, with health, with social security, with work, with urbanism, with justice, with well, you name it, territory administration, environment planning, and so on. So we need, of course, to foster not only this national level cooperation, but also these local and regional cooperations. I don't know, I know that, for example, my two dear friends, Dorien and Jacqueline, don't like the word alignment. I was trying to find another one. I didn't find it yet, but I think that the capacity of national, regional, and local people are aligned, will be important in order to go for this strategy. Finally, two main areas that in the last years, I think the sport level is trying to make a huge effort, and it's more easy for us to make this effort. It's about programs and events, communitary programs with physical activity involving people during the work time, or senior people or kids, with increasing relevance of municipality support in this process. Then the question about the big events, big sport events, which, as you know, now is mobilizing a lot of people to do the activity, but they are normally came from federations point of view, and people are going there to see. This is a model that we need to change, because if someone goes there to see, it's not enough, and people are starting not to come. So if people want to come, we need to give them some experience. So the model should be including, along with events for the professionals, let's say, it's something that should be open for the other people to do. So we need to change this model. But of course, the events, and there is a challenge, and I think Michael also will speak about this during his talk, about the sustainability. We have been working on this area also with Andrew about this, and making the events more sustainable, not only in terms of the process of organizing itself, the event, but also the capacity of transmitting to the audience and to the people the information about this. But the question about activities should be complemented with places. And with places, we need to understand that there are 3 or 4 major dimensions that we should take into consideration when we look about infrastructures. Nowadays, with the individualization of the sport, so people doing their own physical activity, because I don't have time to meet 3 or 4 or 5 people, everybody has different scheduled time. So we need to identify the best opportunities in terms of places and infrastructures and adapt these to the demands. I know that, for example, you have a Portuguese guy that is working also here, and working also with someone from some colleague from the Knowledge Center, Daniel Casasval, who is speaking a little bit about these active cities of the future, how to identify the best adjustments for example, for the public buildings, how to adapt them and put more people more active in a, let's say, informal setting. But there is also some work to do, and I remember very well 3 years ago when we had a meeting in three sector meeting in Brussels with health, sport, and I think agriculture at the time. There were 3 commissioners involved, about the money that was available to build lanes for bicycles. And at the time, I remember very well, there was available 10 billion euros for lanes. And part of the investment that were available was not reached because there was not proposals to do the execution of the investment. So there is a lack of knowledge in order to understand what are the opportunities and in fact to adapt such a simple thing as cycling and walking tracks that are more safe for people, because in some of the cities, as you know, they have a lot of, let's say, a lot of confusion with cars, and some of the cars lovers come to the public setting and say that this cannot be done this way and so on and so on. So we need to, in fact, identify the best way of urban design. There are huge examples from some cities that have a very, very nice city planning, including the sports solution. Finally, and to finish, is this question about monitoring. And monitoring, it's not only to collect data. A lot of people collect data, but most of the people don't analyze the data. And most of the people, after analyzing the data, don't make the enough change in the process coming from the evidence that was collected. And this is, in our case of sport, this is, I think, one of the most relevant inefficiencies that we are having at the moment. We have the data, we analyze part of the data, but we don't learn with the data. So this data is not giving us the opportunity to improve and to get better. So regular collection of data, create and check indicators, and then finally readjust strategies and measures to improve the impact of the different plans and interventions that are developed. When you do this, normally you have success. So this is the 5 major areas that we have identified. Of course, we are still working on the part of the process. We are closing the modules of capacity building. We hope that in October, probably, when we will do the last meeting, probably in Poland, we will see, depending on the situation in Poland. As you know, it's not easy at the moment. We'll see how it goes. If it's not in Poland, probably will be in Portugal. We'll see. However, we will have also these capacity building models ready, and it will be a sort of support, an additional support to the different level stakeholders in order to try to reflect and to create with other contributions that we'll see during this event and at European level in order to improve this situation. But it's a battle. It's a battle for the next 10 years, and we hope that in 2030, us already more near the retirement age, that we have contribute with something to the welfare and to the health being of the people. And that's it. So, Dorien, I think that we have a nice and final challenge.
Yeah.
And I will launch the challenge. Dorien, please, can you moderate this part?
Yeah, no problem, Paulo. Thank you very much for this great presentation. Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, give him a big hand.
Can I leave or I stay?
No, you stay. You stay a little bit close. Maybe Jacqueline, you can help as well. Are there any questions in the room? To Paulo's story, to each other, or do you want to add something to just tell something about your own country, your own situation, things which came up in your mind? Yes, Michael. And
Serneels.
if you have the turn, then please stand up, present yourself.
No problem.
And we help online to do.
You can go, Michael. No, I'll stay here.
No, because I have the microphone.
Yeah.
Good. Good morning, Michael Serneels, European Commission. Thank you very much for this very interesting presentation. I know you're a strong believer in impact assessments and also following up on the results of the impact assessments. You've also mentioned the importance of the different levels of policy development, local, regional, national, European. How would you align all the impact assessments on those different levels, and how would you make sure that they come together and that they fit together? Because that is an important element to take on board, especially for us as a representative of the European Commission, because each one has to come up with his policy development at his proper level. So how would you see that, and how would you come up with a proposal that would work very well?
I have to ask the cameraman, was this, could you hear this? Okay, then we don't have to repeat this question. Very good. Okay. Paulo.
In this particular area, Michael, this is the $1 million question, of course. And we count with you, with the European Commission to do this job. But at the moment, we have 4 major institutionalized systems. We have the Eurobarometer with the advantages and with disadvantages that we know. We don't have time now to go further, but there are more advantages than disadvantages, but there are advantages. We have the Eurostat, which is another system that is combining some of the information. Inside of the Eurostat, you have the health information, which is important, but is not being linked with information from sport. It's being collected independently of the sport sector, which has a huge amount of determinants, especially about the quality of life, about the health diseases and so on, and about the diseases and so on and so on. And then you have local national systems. EuroCities is one of the systems that we have been developing recently with 18 countries in order to identify some of the areas, determinants of physical activity, what are the barriers, what are the motivators, and what are the reasons why people do or they don't do. The second dimension is the participation. We have the numbers from the federations, but in some cases, the people that are inside of the federation system represents 5, 10, 15% of the population. So you have that data, but with that data, you only have a small picture of the population, and the rest of the population, you don't have it. So we need to get data from the, let's say, the sports for all perspective, from the active perspective. But if people are not in the rural areas, we have to go to find people where they are. So they are in the city. So we need to create systems inside of the city. So national systems aligned, again, aligned with the city systems are fundamental. And then we need to get this platform, and I think this is also a huge challenge for European Commission, related also with Erasmus Plus projects. We have already hundreds of Erasmus Plus projects, but if I want to get information about the main indicators, the main strategies, and the outcomes of some of these projects, there is a huge amount of information, and it's difficult for someone that is at the local level to identify what are the best practices in the several areas. So I think that now, the 4 or 5 years ahead, we need to have a huge time spending in systematizing the information that we have already. We have a lot of information, but it's not organized. And we need to, Michael, we need to organize that information, not only in the monitoring level, but also at the project level, where there are huge stuff, and sometimes people are inventing the wheel again. Let me create, and that's it.
I think there's someone else who might add some information on this question as well. But thank you anyway.
George, please
George,
stand up.
Maybe you can stand up.
Yeah.
And the camera will turn to you.
Hello, good morning. I'm Jorge from Portugal. I am a member of this group that is a European Action Project. I would like to add one proposal, is the question of harmonization, because Portugal, our Portuguese government, we are working in the economic and the statistical dimension at the European Commission for harmonize the statistical, because it can have the policy, it can have the financial, and it can have the monitoring. But the people are speaking for the different things about the concept of the statistics, about the concept of the definitions, and you don't have enough data in order to analyze all the input about the policy, the financing, and the development of the program. And I think it's very important, these questions, harmonization, because the Eurostat don't have this, and the country also, and the Eurobarometer. Thanks.
Thank you, George. Yeah, please stand up. Thank you. We're gonna turn. Yeah, just wait a second to turn the camera.
Yeah, and maybe come a little bit close to the
The
microphone. Yeah.
So it's all about the show
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Annelies Akta. I work for VAROS. It's a knowledge center that addresses health inequalities. So I'm here more from a health perspective, but also on how the physical environment impacts health and the other way around. Thank you for your presentation. It was very interesting. I do have some thoughts about it and a question maybe. The thing is, we know that you mentioned, you touched in the answer that Michael, I've got your last name, just said about the barriers that people find to not to do exercise. And we know that poverty, having stress, all these complex reasons are there for people not to exercise. So that makes the solution almost too simple, you know, design active cities and there, boof, suddenly everybody's healthy. It's like a magic bullet, which we all know that isn't true. So in your presentation, you almost presented like having an active city will solve the problems and sports would be in the lead. Whereas I might think maybe to have sports as part of a bigger system and maybe present part of the solution, but also to work with the groups, but as you mentioned rightly, that actually are underrepresented in the data, in the policy planning, in the evaluations, and also are probably under-recognized in their needs and what needs to be solved before they actually can get out of the door and get active. Because if your debts are up to here, or if you have problems raising your children, you don't think, oh, I'll go for a jog because the weather is so nice. So do you have any good examples of, you know, cities or countries that have actually been able to combine the knowledge that we have of people from a lower socioeconomic position with good examples on how the built environment impacts them? And I know it's a hard question, but maybe you've been around, maybe you know of either a good policy that worked or some, you know, you don't talk me about the hardware, the software and the orgware. I'm an orgware person, but maybe hardware, and I know that software, you know, the programs that we organize around the built environment and around the groups that we talk about and us ourselves are important. When did they align perfectly?
Well, to make it short, this is a very nice question because this is the challenge that we are facing. I can give you a real answer and I can give you an hypothetical or theoretical answer. The real answer is that with the situation that we are living in, with the war, part of these have to be readjusted completely, because if you think, for example, about Krakow now, they have 500,000 inhabitants and they have 300,000 migrants inside. So how you manage a city when there are not enough resources for the people that are there? So sport, it's not something relevant at the moment. There are other needs. So the problem with when we are speaking about these, of course, we are talking in an average that does not exist, because Europe has different rates of development and countries have different capacity of putting these in place. If you have a group of people that are working from 7 o'clock until 7 o'clock a.m. or a.m. until 7 o'clock p.m., it's difficult to find leisure time and to get support from the kids. But if you finish your work at 4 o'clock and you have a good income, you have capacity to be volunteer in a club like you do in here in Netherlands. So there are a huge amount of challenges to put these in place. And of course, the situation that we are facing for the next years in terms of crisis at European level, it's not in a sense that we are going to have more salaries, more time free, and more available opportunities to be active. So I think that the sports sector itself still don't understand at the moment the huge impact that this system and this situation is going to have. People are still trying to figure out if it's only about the gas station prices or the food prices. No, it's not. It's going to be a completely different dimension. I think we are not ready still yet. We are not started to discuss the problem, and we need to readjust completely the process. And the first idea will be for the next years, capacity building, capacity building, capacity building. We need to improve the capacity of people that are on the local level to be more resilient. We'd have more capacity of working together, fostering innovation, fostering economy. And Michael will speak, there is a huge support from the Commission, more support than we think. The supports are there. We are in a group of people, and Michael is leading this work, a group of people that are working inside of the Commission in order to identify what are the opportunities at higher level to the funds and sports go there, because if you take a look upon the execution of sport for these funds, it's almost laughable. It's laughable. If you go, for example, and I give an example from some of the countries, and I took a look about patents of innovation in sport, it's zero, almost zero in some of the countries. So we don't create systems and we don't register the systems and we don't innovate. If you don't innovate, you don't add value. If you don't add value, you don't have economy. If you don't have economy, you have poverty. If you have poverty, you are not having active cities. Impossible to deal with. So this is a huge process. I think Commission is on the right track, identifying what are the opportunities to put in money. But it's not enough to say, hey, we have here a good pot of money. It's not enough, because to go there, you need to be strong. You need to have a nice proposal. You need to know how to do it. And to build that capacity on the local organizations, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years. Some of the countries will have that opportunity because they have already, let's say, sport people, financial people, for example, your organization in Netherlands. But at the local level, people are volunteers. They go there after 7 o'clock. I cannot make a proposal. It's something that we are discussing inside of the Commission. How we are going to raise this capacity and going to align with all of this. So this is a huge challenge. And I think that we are going to make improvements, but probably 10 years from now, we are not in the position that we dream to be, because we don't have capacity at the local level. The sport level, it's not strong at local level. It's weak. It's very, very frail. Very, very frail. And it's impossible to do good things or big things with these people. They do already volunteer work, but it's to this step ahead. That's another story. That's another game. That's another game.
Let's see, Paulo, because I know you get so enthusiastic. You keep going. You are. But thank you very much again.
That's the challenge. That's the challenge.
It's such an important question you have. So I don't know if there's someone who likes to add something to this question or wants to say something, because we have to continue. We have to go to the next speaker. But is there a comment? Someone who needs to tell something? Or in the WhatsApp, maybe Stacey, are there really good comments we have to take with us? In the chats of the online guests? Do we have to wait for it?
Can I?
Okay. Yeah.
Can I go?
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks again for Paulo. It's great because yesterday evening we prepared everything and Paulo is just shining on the stage. But before we go further,
we have one from our online audience is Mohammed Hums, and he suggests to add some training courses for individuals like sport college students to lead some public activates. One can often witness a lack of connection between government-sponsored sport for all programs and relevant target groups. Grassroots sport clubs have the ability to engage local community in sport and physical activity. What do you think is the role of grassroots sports in active city design? How should they engage with local municipalities to develop capacity to fulfill their potential? This is a question of Hugo Pereira. But I think this is a nice bridge to the next presenter, because we have Peter van Veen. And Peter van Veen is the Director of Sport of the City of The Hague. And we have two big cities today bringing their good practice. And there have been a lot of questions about what is the role of the city to make the residents more active. But I think that Peter van Veen can share his knowledge today with us. So Peter, welcome.
Thank you. It's very difficult for me to have an inspiring contribution after such an enthusiastic contribution about such a dull subject, statistics and data. But I try to bring you in my contribution, give you an overview of the local practice in sports policy in The Hague, and especially in the context of the title of European Capital of Sports. My name is Peter van Veen in Dutch. I'm director of the Department of Sports at the Municipality of The Hague. In my formal position, and my colleague is sitting there, I was in Rotterdam, so the two big cities of the Netherlands, I know the practice there. As you all know, sport connects and inspires people because, first of all, I think fun. We all have fun when we doing sports, and of course it gives you energy, it gives you health, and therefore I think sport is the most powerful means to address the intrinsic value to connect and motivate residents of The Hague in many ways, and in cities also. As a city by the sea, The Hague has unique selling points. We have experience hosting international events like conferences. We host international organizations, and we also organize large sport events. Of course, we would like to excel by hosting these. However, also by achieving that every resident participates in sports in everyday life. We aspire to inspire people through sports, to inspire them to take up sports or exercise. We have lots of volunteers helping our sports clubs. Without them, we couldn't achieve our goals. These volunteers help us bring people together and to just have fun while working also on their health. I'm not good in multitasking, but I try. Yeah. The Hague is this year the European capital of sport. We aspire that every resident, regardless of age or physical limitations, is encouraged to play sports and exercise. To be a city that optimally utilizes the social impact of sport and makes full use of the power of sport and top sport to tackle also social challenges and contribute also to the economic development and attractivity of our city. The title, European Capital of Sport, is for us a crown on our sports policy. ACES Europe annually awards the European Capital of Sport title. ACES Europe helps us to generate international attention for the power of sport and exercise of our city. Not only about sport, but also about sport and exercise as a means of promoting social cohesion and improving the health of our citizens and the quality of the life of our citizens and the European residents living in our city. What are the ambitions we have with the title in 20? What is the ambition we have in our policy sports policy. Our ambition, in my terms, it's more a dream. It's more a wish that all residents in 2030 will participate in sport or exercise, regardless of age, background, income level, or whatsoever by 2030. We see the title of European Capital of Sports as a catalyst to achieve our goal of full sports participation. Although I know it's difficult because also the newborn and the people who are dying are also counted in that 100% participation. But the dream is that all people in this city will contribute, will participate in sports or some kind of movement to be more fit, to be more healthy, and to be more contributing to the society. We perceive the title as an encouragement to show the successes of our sports policy and do what we all enjoy so much, sports and exercise together. In 2022, we will show that sport is a powerful instrument for a more vital The Hague. And of course, we celebrate it possible to meet again after the COVID crisis. What are the leading sport events in 2022 in The Hague in the year we are also European Capital of Sports? Over the past years, The Hague has successfully hosted leading international events such as the World Hockey Championships, the World Championships beach volleyball. We have every year the City running competition. We had also a motorsport event, the Red Bull Knockout, and we had 3 years ago the finish of the Volvo Ocean Race. The city has set a new standard because during these events we aim to include different parties, for example by organizing recreational sports side events or organize activities like clinics for youth, and by making connections with other fields such as culture, health or the economy. During the international top sport events, there are lots of side events inviting the public to visit and be part of the event. In 2022, we host, all the events are behind me, but I name some, several sport leading events such as the Davis Cup, we hosted in March, the World Sailing Youth Championships, we will host in the summer. And during these events, we will also show the world, show Europe that we are the European Capital of Sport. Therefore, we choose the Davis Cup in March to launch our title, European Capital of Sport 2022. Next year, we will host a pit stop of the Volvo Ocean Race, and of course, we are very honored to host the World Championships sailing next year. The Hague has a large variety of high-quality sports facilities and with an enormous number of sport halls, swimming pools, outdoor sport complexes, etc., etc. For example, the Stadium of Football of ADO, professional football club, skating center the Uithof, the Hofbad, the 50-meter swimming pool, the sport campus Zuiderpark, where you are today, the top sailing center in Scheveningen Harbour, and a beach stadium at Scheveningen Beach. Our sports accommodations are equipped as multifunctional buildings with several purposes, and they are embedded within their neighborhoods, and we would like them to be used for shared use. The balance supplies and demand for sports facilities in The Hague. In neighborhoods, parties work together on neighborhood-oriented offer, for example via sports gardens in the city, Krajcek playgrounds and Kruifpoorts in the Netherlands, well-named playground organizations. We have sports stimulation programs for various target groups. Sports and healthcare providers provide tailor-made sport programs, and for example for residents of The Hague with a disability. These sport clubs and organizations will be placed in the spotlights also in 2022. To achieve our ambition that every resident is participating in sport, it's important to have a good range of sport and high quality sport facilities. Some facts and figures about our sport participation. To find out, these are lighted behind me. I'm not going to read them again, so you can read them all. But to find out if we are on the right track, we must of course now know how many residents are members of sport clubs. Yeah, we have to collect data. We need to find out which target groups are participating and within which groups we need to improve or intensify our instruments in our policy. Some local studies were made for it. We studied, for example, how the people in The Hague participate in sport. We have studied the direct sport participation in The Hague, and we have studied the vitality of sports clubs in The Hague. But those data, those studies are very local and with local methods, and we want to in The Hague we want to benchmark our data with other cities in the Netherlands, with other cities in Europe, and for that it's very important that we improve the way we collect data, we improve the systems in which we collect data, and also the networks in which we can share data and talk about it with other large cities in the Netherlands and in Europe. And to start with it, next year we will working together with the Dutch National Olympic Committee and the Dutch National Sport Federation on a transition of our data system, of our collecting data system, to a national system for benchmarking our data and improve our data systems, so we can benchmark not only with cities in the Netherlands, but also with cities in the rest of Europe. The Hague, as I told, has many sports facilities, about 170 sport fields for football, golfball, field hockey, cricket, rugby, baseball and tennis. Most of them are managed by the local government. We are immensely proud of the sports climate in The Hague, for there are many active clubs, good facilities, wonderful events and involved residents. From recreational sportsmen and women to elite sportsmen and elite sports women. The joy of the visitors to games and events are an absolute delight and reward. Sport connects and empowers The Hague, as I told. We want to show our residents that sports, first of all, is fun and is part also of a healthy lifestyle, and it's connecting people. Through sports, everyone is equal, for there's only the difference in level of contributing to sport. The city aims also to achieve an attractive business climate. We would like to facilitate experts, because there are many international organizations located in Den Haag, to facilitate the experts with high quality sport facilities as the same level of the facilities they are used to in their home country, in their home cities. In addition, we would like to contribute also to the economy of The Hague, to major events, because visitors of those need to overnight in accommodations, hotels, or visit other parts of our city, or maybe other parts of the Netherlands. How to achieve the 100% sport participation in 2030? We have for that we have a local sports agreement or sports accord, it's hosted on 4 pillars. The one pillar is facilities, the second one is the vitality of our sports clubs, the third one is to empower all the people to participate on exercising or on sports, and the fourth one is the use of elite sports also in the development of our sports and development of our nation as a sports nation. The sport accord is for The Hague. some goals, ambitions, and actions. These are necessary to be able to achieve our goal that every resident of The Hague participates in sport. The Sport Accord of The Hague is also the local transition of a national sport accord. The national sport accord is ending this year. We hope all that there's a new sport accord, so all the local governments can, together with the national government, make new accords to improve their sports policy in their local situations. A new national sport accord offers us opportunities for setting new local ambitions to meet the needs of a fast-growing city like The Hague. The municipality of The Hague is committed and will therefore continue to invest in a range of sports facilities and programs. But there are huge challenges. Sports and exercise have fierce competition from other leisure activities. The digital world offers opportunity maybe for sports, but can also lead to isolation and inactivity. Overweight and inactivity grow, children's motor skills decrease. Chronic conditions with strong lifestyle component are on the rise. We noticed that sport participation decreased instead of increased in Corona time. To turn this side, we started last year an activation program with the name GoGo Den Haag. GoGo Den Haag started last year in August and aspires to help sport clubs to gain full strength and to inspire active residents of The Hague to exercise regularly during and after the Corona period. It's a huge activation program supported by media, supported by all kind of gadgets. It was not only pointed to sports clubs, but also to local initiative in the city, not related to sports clubs, but only one target: move, go, go, Den Haag. We also have a central elite sport program. The Hague hosts 3 national programs for sailing, for beach volleyball, and for skateboarding. The national training centers and programs for sailing, beach volleyball, and skateboarding are in The Hague. With elite sports, we do not only contribute to our national elite sports goals, we also like to have impact with elite sports on our local infrastructure of sports clubs, the local infrastructure of the technology we use in elite sports for local sports clubs, and to exchange knowledge which is in those programs, and to exchange this with local sport clubs, with other people who want to use that knowledge for become better, for become healthier. We also make the use of impact of role models, elite sports men and women, to our grassroots sports clubs, activation programs, and also for the city promotion of The Hague. Then we have a living lab. We have a, what I told you before was the factory of the sports policy. We also have a lab, an R&D center, and we call it Den Haag Zuidwest, Den Haag Sportkwartier, or in English, the Southwest District of The Hague. It's an area about 80,000 inhabitants, and it's one of the poorest districts of the Netherlands. It's only 200 meters from here, that way. Many of the residents there struggling due to their income or social status. And we would like to activate these residents through sport. We use sport as a means to resilience and participation in civil society. And we use sport in schools as an aim to reduce exercise poverty and improve learning skills. The challenges we're standing for. We have 3. The last one is the most easiest, I hope. So we can host the Tour de France in 2025. 2025 or 2026, maybe 2024, but I think that's not realistic anymore. But those are the secret of the tour. And we do it together with Rotterdam. The second one is the Hague Zuidwest, Hague Sportkwartier. Now it's focused on improving the quality of life and participation in civil society. And my dream is that that also sports club, the organized sport, is coming to the Hague Zuidwest to be part of the development which will take place there to improve not only the environment but also the people. And the first one is my biggest nightmare. That's the growth of this city in relation to the space we need for all those nice programs, for all those clubs, and to give the people in The Hague enough space, enough joy of participating on sport. The next 50 to 20 years, the population of our city will increase with 70,000 to 100,000 inhabitants. And formal growth was mostly found outside our city borders, but this growth we will find, and we have to salute the solution. We will find a solution within the borders of our city. That's a huge challenge also for a city which is already the most densely populated city in the Netherlands. This will increase a growing scarcity of space in general, this movement. And that's why we have made, for example, a housing plan for sport facilities. Not only for the plans for the growing city, which facilities do we need, and in which way we will organize the facilities, but also in which way can we use that what we have better for the growth of the city. And for example, we make them more sustainable, carbon neutral. We think about new high quality facilities, and we also study on innovating concepts to avoid and conquer the space claims of other sectors like housing, public transport, public space and economic activities. But those things you also need in a growing city. Vitality is not only sports. All the people think in this room think sport is the most important thing of life. No, it's not. It's the most important, less important thing in life, but very important to bring vitality in your city. But also housing is important, public transport, public space development is important. And what will be a city without economic activities? And we as sports, we have to talk with them with full mouth, with open mind, because their interests are also very important and interesting for us. And where possible, we have to combine interest instead of conquer interests between our interests and their interests. That was my contribution. Thank you. We are looking forward for the events this year in 2024 and 2025 or 26. The grand départ of the tour, of course, I just mentioned. And I wish you a very good conference today. And if possible, behind me, there's one of the most exciting events I've ever seen. It's not sports in the real way of sports, but it's sports as part of the rehabilitation of veterans who are wounded mentally or physically in war. And it's a very actual theme at this moment, where there's a war in Europe, not far from here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Peter. But please stay here. Yeah, maybe you have heard some noise, and that's the supporters, the fans of all those militaries who are competing here, some meters from here for indoor rowing at the moment. And later on, we here in the audience will see also wheelchair rugby. It's very interesting. Peter, one question from myself and two from the audience online. You mentioned the Hague Zuidwest. Yesterday we were here and we were there. We did our neighborhood safari.
Yeah.
And you mentioned, yeah, you have to. It's a very poor neighborhood, and we saw a volunteer, a young man. He was doing baseball together with youngsters. Very nice. And we also saw the KFC. And we asked him, what do you do? He says, all the time I bring a big bag with bottles of water and I bring mandarins. And they take it, of course, but afterwards, after doing the physical activity, they all go to the KFC. Is this something that you are worrying about also, about what is the plan for this neighborhood? Please use the microphone.
Healthy lifestyle is not only exercising and sporting. Healthy lifestyle is also thinking about food, about many things. But food is very important. Nutrition is very important. And what you see is that, I think it's not different than in other European countries. Everywhere, where are the KFCs, the McDonald's, fast food? Fast food is very important, very popular in most people in the Netherlands. I don't know how to conquer this only with help of the national government and with local suppliers to bring, for example, in our sports club, it's for me, it's also very, how do you call it? When I come in a sports club, beer is the largest source of income of a sports club. Our sport is funded by lottery money.
So there's something
that's the
wrong
reality
with the
of sport
system.
at this moment. And I'm not able in my own to change that. We have to change it together with national and international. When we take sport serious, we have to stop funding our sports with lottery incomes at first. Second one is thinking about in UK there's I think a tax for healthy food, sugar tax. Now, there are plans in the Netherlands also to introduce that. Some local governments, but also national governments, are thinking about reducing fast food restaurants, fast food shops within, for example, the neighborhoods of schools, that kind of things.
Yeah, by coincidence, I read this morning in the city of Ede, where I live, the municipality asked now for someone who wants to do street food from Ede, the region, healthy street food in the station, so that we don't have the Febo and the Spellers, etc. But that we have good food from the neighborhood, so that when you catch a train, that you take this healthy food.
But the reality at this moment, healthy food has a higher price than junk food. And that's also a thing we have to think about. Especially we want to if we want people in the poorest areas that they change their lifestyle and use healthier food.
Yeah, I have 3 more questions, but I think it's too much. So I just mention the questions and then you pick one. Yeah,
okay.
It's okay. So Dusan Mitić from Serbia, he asked, you didn't speak about fitness clubs. Do you want to say something about it, the role of fitness clubs within this municipality? Then we have Ahmed Arawali. He says, when we have in a city where low number of active participants, what can you do best when you don't have the system, you don't have a strong infrastructure, you don't have good facilities? What do you recommend by activating people? And the last one is about, oh no, we have 2 more. Hugo Pereira, he says, can you name the main stakeholders lobbying for sport development in the city of The Hague? I think some of them are here in the audience, the Adviesraad. And then the last one was from Mohamed Hums, how the formal sport bodies encourage the sport community that targets everybody regardless age of skills and skills. So
can you repeat the last one?
Fitness, a low number of active participants and how can you market community level, main stakeholders lobbying for sport development in The Hague, and the last one is a bit difficult to say. How do you encourage the sport community to target everybody, not only the people who already want to do sport?
Okay.
So please use the microphone.
Okay. I think I have here a microphone.
Oh, okay, okay.
Does it work, this microphone? Yeah? Okay.
Okay.
I choose the second one about fitness, but I want to broaden it to commercial sports.
Yeah.
The former speaker also said something about it. Most people who are sporting are not sporting in a formal way. For example, the Dutch Cycling Union has about 40,000 members. Every weekend in this country, 800,000 people go on a race bike for making the exercises. 50, 60, 80, 100 kilometers. What we, from a government side, are inventing, and we know it already, but sometimes we forget it. When we talk about sports, we mostly talk about organized sports, sports in sports clubs, sports clubs who are in federations, national federations, international federations, but we forget that there are many people who are not sporting in the form of a club or a federation. Second one, there are many clubs who are not connected to a federation because they are in our very, hoe zeg je dat? Bekrompen?
Narrow-minded.
Narrow-minded view from government as commercial. I'm not anxious for commercial.
Good.
What's wrong with commercial? When you can earn your money with sports, how good can it be? For example, many sports in Eastern fight sports, defense sports, boxing, judo, jiu-jitsu, it's commercial in a way that the owner earns his money with offering training and activities and the possibility to participate in galas or in competitions and events. I think that's a growing industry. And then I come to the third one, the fitness. Fitness is in terms of the Netherlands, I think it's the largest federation in the Netherlands, but it's not a official federations. But the fitness branch is very large.
It's growing, and it's organized very well. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I think this is a good answer. And then I'll look at the clock. We have a coffee break. So for the people online, please do some workout, maybe get some coffee. And here we have coffee and tea. And afterwards at 11:15, we have Michael Serneels of the European Commission, and we have the good example of the city of Rotterdam. We're also very curious about that. And then we have some Q&A again. So please come back after 11:15.
Okay, welcome back after a short break. We had an inspiring morning session, and now we continue also with the live stream again. So welcome all the people online as well. And let's have a look at the program. So before lunch, this is what we are going to do. Michael Serneels, he's going to give a presentation soon. Then we will listen to Wendeline from Lier. She is giving a presentation about how the city of Rotterdam is doing its program. And we have a discussion afterwards with André. So this is what we are going to do the next couple of hours. And well, of course, we think about a European perspective. What programs could support us? How can we well get the objective to become or to get more active cities in Europe? And what can we do better? And thinking of programs like the new European Bauhaus program or Healthy Lifestyle for all. So give it a European perspective.
Yeah,
Jacqueline.
and next afterwards we will hear the good practice of the city of Rotterdam, as promised. Also a truly inspiring story. And but first, let's give some attention to the European perspective. Michael Serneels, who took a very early train from Brussels this morning, so this is already an applause for you. And we're very glad that you have accepted our invitation. And please share what you want to share. And I think you want to share something about Share Initiative too. So please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning also from my part. I'll go stand here and then I'll walk around a little bit. So thank you for the introduction. So Michael Serneels is my name. I'm a Belgian working for the European Commission and more specifically for the sport unit at the European Commission. We're part of the Directorate General of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport. I have worked already in the past in the sport unit between 2006 and 2008 at the time of the white paper on sport. I'll mention that briefly later on. And I've rejoined the sport unit last year, January. So it's a year and a half that I'm back at the sport unit. The main files I work on are the HEPA file, the Health Enhancing Physical Activity file, data collection and everything related to data. So Paulo already mentioned earlier on and very often referred to me, so I'll have to fill in everything that he talked about also from the European perspective. And finally, I also deal with WHO and everything related to HEPA and the share file. The share file, I have one slide on it. From what I saw in the program, first of all, senior policy advisor, that already feels a very big policy officer would be good. I mean, I don't feel that old, young in heart and in mind, sportive, but okay. Okay. A little bit louder, still louder. Okay, then I'll stand here in front of the micro. That will be better. I'll go through quickly what I will be talking about today. I'll mention about the basis of sport in the EU. We'll look into the EU work plan for sport, the priorities that we have. I'll talk about Erasmus briefly, also about pilot projects, preparatory actions, some of the events that we organize, and then share initiative at the very end, one slide. If I would have known, I would have had a whole share preparation, but okay, this is what it is because we are dealing with a lot more than just regional development and share initiative. So you will see that we're a small team of approximately 15 people working on all different aspects related to sport policy at the European Union. So I'll hope that I'll be able to give you some insight of what we do at the European Commission with sport. First and foremost, the basis for sport. Up until 2009, there was no mention whatsoever in the treaties about sport. Sport was not mentioned anywhere. As I've said, 2007 white paper on sport was really a foundation for the later inclusion of sport in the Treaty on the Function of the European Union, which is also known as the Lisbon Treaty. And more particularly, Article 165 is the article where you have the mention of sport. This is an important step because this means that you have a possibility of funding, you have possibility of setting up working groups, etc., etc. So this is really a very important stepping stone for the sport community in Europe. An additional important article is Article 6. I didn't put it on the slide, but Article 6 also somehow defines what we can do at the level of the European Union. And it's clear that our role is related to the support, supplement and coordination of what's happening at the level of the member states. Because the core competence of sports policy still remains at the level of the member states. So that is really important to keep in mind. Because of the fact that we now have a legal basis in 2009, we could start up with work plans for sport. We are now in the execution of the 4th work plan on sport. So we've had 3 since 2011. And the main priority of the work plan for sport, the current work plan for sport, is the development of the cooperation between the stakeholders, member states and European Union institutions. We have invested a lot in networking and in bringing people together because we are convinced that sharing good practices is really a very good approach in terms of policy development. We've also created 2 expert groups in the context of this work plan, namely the expert group on green sport. Environment and sustainable sporting activities is very important for us but also in global for the Commission. You know that the 5 main objectives, one of them is the Green Deal. So green sport is quite important. And unfortunately, we've had to have also an expert group on the recovery from COVID-19, because I don't tell you anything new, that this is something that really has had an impact on the sporting communities all over in Europe. Work plan on sport, specific priority areas. Integrity and values in sport, something that has been important since the very start, since the white paper on sport and even before that. Integrity and values in sport are really essential for us. Second priority, socioeconomic and environmental dimension of sport. Socioeconomic dimension of sport has been there from the very, very start, even from before the white paper on sport. This has been something crucial. Environmental dimension is something that has gained a lot of importance over the last years, definitely also, of course, with climate change and the impact it can have. And that definitely also, within the context of today's seminar, for active cities is a very important element, also the environmental impact and how it impacts your sport policy development in your city. And then the third priority area is, of course, promoting participation in sport and physical activity. You will see later on in the presentation that that is an aspect that we really focus on intensively in different events that we organize and in different aspects also of our funding. Current and future priorities, a little bit more details of what it is about. As I've said, environment, social inclusion, good governance, really solid pillars that have been with us for quite a long time, and that we still cherish and really look into very, very intensively. But there are also healthy lifestyle for all, sport mobility, international cooperation. Healthy lifestyle for all is an initiative that was launched in September of last year, and which is the follow-up of the Tartu Call. Tartu Call was a call that was between 2017 and 2019 and was also about promoting a healthy lifestyle. We've now broadened it because at the time, Paulo mentioned it in his presentation briefly, it was agriculture, health and sport together working on that program. Now we've broadened it to everybody. So what means that? That we are having regular meetings with with a lot of departments in the Commission who do have directly or indirectly an impact on healthy lifestyle. I have a slide on healthy lifestyle for all, so I'll go a little bit deeper on that with that slide. Sport mobility is, I think, also important to mention. KA1 stands for Key Action 1. You are all familiar with that. It is about the exchange of students under Erasmus. Everybody knows it. It's one of the flagships of the European Commission. Sport will profit also from that as of next year. So I have colleagues as we speak who are preparing the sport mobility, and there will be a possibility also in terms of mobility of people working and dealing in the sports sector as of next year. So I would say look out for the next call from Erasmus, because that will be part of it. And international cooperation is also a very important element. We have the 27 member states with whom we work, but we broaden also our policy development towards more than the 27 member states. We have a lot of neighborhood states with whom we work, also in the region of Ukraine. So for the time being, for us, that's quite a difficult file. Also Turkey, you will also have a lot of countries that are also involved in the Erasmus program. So international cooperation is also an important element for us that we are working on and that we are paying attention to. Erasmus, quickly, the horizontal priorities, familiar with them. These horizontal priorities are always to be seen in the global priorities that we have at the Commission. So all these programs always fit in those global programs. You see inclusion and diversity is important. Climate change and environment, always. Digital transformation also has quite an impact for the sport community at large. And then common values, civic engagement and participation. Think about your volunteers in the sporting community, also an important element within Erasmus. I'm showing this because if you apply following a call for Erasmus funds, keep these in mind all the time. That's really important. So these are really the fundamentals that you have to keep in mind. If you write a proposal, keep this in mind. I will show you sport-specific priorities, but they also link to these for horizontal priorities. These are the sport-specific priorities. Of course, encouragement of participation in sport and physical activity. Integrity and values in sport, as I've said before, from the very beginning, very important for us. Do not forget the potential of sport in terms of education. So there is a lot of potential in terms of education in and through sport. Definitely also a pillar that we use in the evaluations of Erasmus+. And then, sadly, we have to continue always also to work on the combat against violence and intolerance and racism, discrimination within sport. It is something that still needs attention. We hope that that will disappear someday, but I mean, maybe that's a bit naive, but nevertheless, it is there, and I hope that it might disappear quite quickly. Budget. Why did I put this here? I think it's important for two reasons. As I've said, legal basis, 2009. One of the consequences is that funding possibilities become available. In the 2014-2020 multi-annual financial framework, we had 265 million euros available under Erasmus for sport. For this 7-year period, it has risen to 470 million. So this demonstrates that sport and physical activity is gaining also importance within the European Union and within the policymakers of the European Union. On the other hand, 470 million euros, if you compare it with what you have in research, in agriculture, in regional development, it is modest. Let's say that, let's put it like that. Nevertheless, it is increasing, and I think that is promising and should motivate you also in terms of continuously working within the field of physical activity, sport, and really stay motivated. We're on the good way, it's improving. Oh, sorry, wrong button, there we go. If I look a little bit more in detail on 2022, we have approximately 71 million euros available. 4 actions, so cooperation partnerships. We're here today. This is one of the Erasmus Plus cooperation partnerships programs. You have small cooperation partnerships, non-for-profit European sport events, and then capacity building in the field of sport, which is a smaller part of the program. These are the actions where calls for proposals are annually sent out for. You will see now we're in the 2nd year, so the coming 5 years, you will each year have a call. You'll see one of the events that will come up is related to that. I've just put this here to give you also an idea of these are the bigger projects. The small cooperation partnerships have less budget, but the administrative burden is also lower, so it's easier. So this is more for the smaller organizations, whereas the cooperation partnerships are more for the, I would say, bigger, more professional organizations who have their own resources and who can really put those resources at the disposal of the project. And then the not-for-profit European sport events are mainly also related, for example, to the European Week of Sport. But those are the smaller programs and the smaller actions. Those first two are the biggest ones that we are dealing with. Sorry, I will do this until the end. Pilot projects and preparatory actions, I've put it in here because I think it's important to you also to understand what exactly are these pilot projects and preparatory actions. Pilot projects are essentially experimental projects that are being set up and that are tryouts for initiatives that in the longer end could lead up to standing EU funding programs. The first two are preparatory actions, which are the next step after a pilot project. Preparatory actions are already more extensive projects and are really leading up to EU funding. So we have a preparatory action related to the integration and inclusion of refugees, which of course comes from the 2015 migration crisis that we've had. That was definitely one of the inspirations of this preparatory action. The second one could be interesting also for you, because this is about the infrastructure innovation and the grassroots sport programs related to it. As you all know, infrastructure is essential. We've seen it with the presentation of the Hague, that's one of the key elements also in active cities, and it's the availability of good infrastructure for your grassroots sports. So this is a preparatory action. This might lead up to a longer standing EU funding program that could help also in the innovation of the infrastructure. Definitely also related to the Green Deal, keeping in mind the Green Deal that we have at the Commission. Infrastructure innovation is definitely an important element on a European basis in terms of climate change and in terms of energy use and consumption. Final one, this one, the doping, fight on doping in sport, that's a pilot project. And there is a new pilot project, not on the slide, which is sports for people and planet, specifically linked to sustainability. That is also going to be launched or has been launched. I think it was in the last call. And that should also lead up to more sustainable sport initiatives. There we go, yeah. Yeah, I'll have to remember it's down, down, down. Okay, good. Quickly, the events that we organize, we have like 5 flagship events, like we like to call them. First one is the Sport Info Day. It is the day where Erasmus Plus, together with the executive agency, is explained and where the launch and for the call for proposals is officially set out. Secondly, the Be Inclusive Awards next week, 28th of April. It's an online event this year. It's about the valorizing of the projects that support the social inclusion. Remember, one of the main priorities that we've had. EU Sport Forum is our annual forum that we organize, which is a high-level forum where we bring together all the different stakeholders of the sports community, member states, sports federations, but also international players. We bring them together on a specific program. Few of my colleagues are working very hard in the preparation of that. European Week of Sport, always last week of September. Very important, and we are very grateful to all of you who participate in that and who really help us to come up with these numbers. You see over 11 million participants last September in 21 with 43,000 events. So it's really a very massive promotional activity all over Europe that really promotes physical activity and sport at the local and regional levels. So very important for us. And then by the end of the year, it's always the moment of awards. Once again, those are the Be Active Awards, where we have like 3 categories where we also like promote sport and physical activity, but we are supporting those projects also with some sums of money. Modest, but nevertheless very much appreciated, because those awards are very often awarded to people who are really doing grassroots works in the on the field, in the field. And that is really very much appreciated. I'm not doing it on purpose, sorry for that. Healthy Lifestyle for All initiative, quickly. As I've said, follow-up of the Tartu call. It's a 2-year initiative based on 3 pillars. It's mainly a communication campaign where we are promoting a healthy lifestyle for all, where physical activity and sport is part of, but where nutrition, research, environment also has an important role to play. Main element in this communication campaign is a pledge board. If you go on the website of the European Commission, you will see the pledge board. I would invite you to go to our website and go to the pledge board, because it will give you also some inspiration of other projects that are taking place over Europe. And please do consider pledging. It's always great. We have around 50 pledges now since September. So have a look at it and contact us. And if you want to support us in this initiative, please do so. And then last, but definitely not least, yeah, now I got it right, good. Share Initiative. So the Share Initiative is, finds its origin in a 2016 study on the potential of sport and physical activity in the regional development. So a study has shown there that sport and physical activity does have quite some potential in terms of supporting you in your regional and even local economies. And the graphic that you see on your right-hand side gives a demonstration of all the possible domains and all the possible fields where sport and physical activity can have a contribution. You will see that it really goes from research and innovation to local businesses, but also to health, sustainable green infrastructure. Honestly, it's amazing. And what's more amazing is that sport and physical activity up until today hasn't really gotten into all these national program actions. Sport and physical activity should have much more, should be much more present in all these program actions in the member states. And I see a lot of people nodding because you are all believers, but we are trying, and that's why we have the share platform, we are trying also to make sure that sport and physical activity finds its place in other domains. As it says, it is launched in 2018. We have, I have a few very valued colleagues here in the room also, who are also attending the platform on a very regular basis. It's about bringing all these people together, as I've said earlier, networking and bringing good practices together, and sharing also these good practices and learning from one another. One of the elements, one of the tools that we use are papers. We have research papers, briefing papers, background papers, but we also have capacity building programs. And Paulo mentioned them already in his presentation. The idea is that the knowledge that there's a lot of theoretical knowledge, that we bring it also to the regions and the local levels, and that people can learn from what we have been studying and that it can be put in practice. And I believe that that is really the next step where we are now in front of. It's really bringing in practice what we have been studying and what we have learned. And it's also strongly related to what Paulo mentioned earlier in terms of impact assessment and in terms of data. What do you do with it? How do you apply it? And learn from it. And if something doesn't work, adjust and make sure that you come up with proposals that do work. In this context, it's not on the slide, but we organize a set of webinars on the 11th and the 18th of May. So within a few weeks, where active development will be explained, and the concept of active development. I don't know. Yes. Yes? Okay. I'll round up. So the active development is really about integrating physical activity and sport in your regional development and in your local development, and making sure that it is on the top of minds of local and regional policymakers, and that they think of sport and physical activity, especially the ones who are not already in sport and physical activity. And that is a challenge, without any doubt. Keep in touch. We're online everywhere, Twitter, Facebook, on our website. So do have a look. If you have questions, I will be here for the rest of the day. So I'll also visit the Invictus Games. I just went to the indoor rowing, very impressive and very, very motivating and inspiring. So with this, thank you very much for your attention, and I'm open for questions.
Yes, thank you, Michael. I think we have to keep our questions in mind, because we're going to do first another speaker, and then we come back with questions and answers.
Okay.
So write it down or keep it in mind. Thanks for showing all the opportunities we have in Europe.
Okay, you're welcome.
Trying to get different kinds of funds, and it's really inspiring working together with different countries as well to learn from each other, is my experience. But thank you anyway, Michael.
Welcome.
Questions will come later.
Okay, good.
So the next speaker is Wendeline van Lier. She's from the city of Rotterdam, and she will explain, and hopefully they will become a global active city. But Wendeline van Lier will explain everything to us. I don't know if you are connected already, or do we need to? No, I think, Peter, we need some time to. We need some time. That's not a problem at all. Wendeline, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So it's still morning, so good morning to you. Thank you for having me. I'm Wendeline van Lier. I work for the city of Rotterdam since a long time now, and since 17 years. And always, have been working in the sports department for 17 years. And I've been looking around, working on projects, building things, building areas, developing areas. And last few years, we had possibility to work on the biggest sports events in the city. And nowadays, I work as a strategic policy officer for the city. I am very happy of the place that I have in the how do I say this? I didn't prepare this word, so it needs to come to mind in English. And the order of the program, because I heard a lot of stories that I did not include in my presentation, but these are things that I think are basic sanitary issues. you need to research, you need to do something with the data that you research, you need to develop, put it in your plans, you need to make policy on that, and you need to test and see whether things happen or not. You need accommodations, you need both the hardware and the software and the orgware. So I will slightly touch on these things, and I will tell you more about well, what the city of Rotterdam is, where we come from, where we are today, and why we want to become a global active city. And the question mark is not there for nothing. It's there because we are still discussing, is this the right thing for us to do, or do we need something else as a, well, point on the horizon? Okay, let's go to the next one. Voila, this is my city. This is the city that I'm very, very proud of. Every time I see this picture, which is in the front of our sports policy plan, every time I see this picture, I glow inside. I get really happy. Maybe you can see it on my face. This is my city. I like the light that shivers in the river. I like the high-rise buildings. I like the bustling of the city, the dynamics of the city, the people in the city that gives it, well, a vibration that's really, well, my kind of world that I like to live in and I like to work for. And I think that I am very proud of the city because I know where we come from. And I will show you this. This used to be our city after 15 minutes of bombing in World War II. We had a lovely medieval city center, and then we had nothing but a church and a town hall. And we decided to rebuild it. And we decided we wanted to be the most modern city in the Netherlands. So we worked and we worked. And we gave the people in these days the how do you say that? I've got the word. I'm sorry. The should know it. Well, no, well, it's you've got, well, the people that had to redesign the city patterns. We gave them the blanket and they designed it from scratch, and they made real much space for cars because the car was I'm sorry, it's disappearing and it will become. The car was the modern thing, and we wanted to be modern, so we decided the car should be in the center of the city planning, and everything was surrounded around the car. We developed the city around the car, and well, it was very lovely. If you wanted to come by car to the city and you wanted to reach the city center very efficiently, you could, and you still can. But we discovered that we had little space for pedestrians, for cyclists, even though all of the people in the Netherlands love to cycle a lot. In Rotterdam, they did not cycle so very much. They did not walk so very much because, well, the cars, they are always there, and they're not so very lovely anymore. This is the other background of our city. It's a harbor city. The second city it has been for a long time the largest harbor city in the world, and the harbor pulled a lot of people who would come to work to the city. And these workers, they did not have to be high educated. They would come, they would work, and when the city grew and the harbor grew and it moved westwards, we had not enough people to work in the harbor, and we got people that came from Spain, from Italy, from Greece, from Morocco, from Turkey, wherever you call it. They came to Rotterdam, and they saw their chances to develop in life, and they found it in our city. And the city grew and grew and grew and developed into a city with lots of people, lots of diverse people. It's a city now of over 650,000 inhabitants, and we've got 170 nationalities in our city. There's no other city in the Netherlands with such diversity in languages, cultures, tastes, and colors. So this makes it the city that I am so very proud of. This image, I love to spend hours watching it, and well, love being there as well. In Rotterdam, it doesn't matter where you come from, but it matters where you grow to. So we try to we give people the opportunity to develop themselves. We have always had a belief that the city center and these high-rise buildings, they can be the background of our sports events, sports activities. And already this is not the right picture, but as early as 1994, we had a Davis Cup duel between US and the Netherlands. It was on the abandoned harbor. And this was in 2009 when we had the Red Bull cliff diving. We liked the backdrops of the abandoned buildings, but also the city center with the bridge right in front of it, right in the middle of it. And not only did we use the city as a background for these events, we also had a very active sports policy. And already in 2005, we had a program called Lekker Fit. It's in English, it must be something like fit and healthy or fit and happy. Maybe that's better. It's a program in elementary schools where we research what's behind the reason for people to act healthy or to participate in sports. So we talked to a lot of people from different backgrounds, and we discovered, for instance, that people from migrant background, they don't think their child is not healthy as long as it is not in the hospital. So if a child is overweighted, then that's not a problem because it's not in hospital yet. And understanding what's behind these thoughts and developing programs on changing these thoughts or maybe changing the behavior that comes out of these thoughts, this helped us become a very active, sports policy city, I should say. There was also someone in Erasmus University, Lex Burdorf, and he plotted on this map. It's the metro lines map. I think it's coming to The Hague as well. And no, that's not this one. I'm so sorry, The Hague. But this is our city and or the metro system of our city. And Lex Burdorf, he researched the influence of socioeconomic factors, environment, air quality, and behavior on health and life expectancy. And Lex, he discovered that on average, the inhabitants of Rotterdam live 1.5 years shorter than Dutch inhabitants. And when he plotted it on this map, and this is why I show you this map, he discovered that in the far northeast, if you live there, you have a life expectancy of over 8 years compared to someone who lives at Maashaven station, which is just here. It's not a very good picture, so this difference of 8 years between the northeast part of the city where air pollution is less than in the city center, where education levels are higher than in the city center, or maybe I should not say city center, but in the south of Rotterdam. Well, this really was a shock for a lot of people and a lot of policy makers. So we decided we had to change something in the city, and because harbor was the reason for a lot of air pollution and we could not change the harbor, they decided to change the traffic pollution. So we had a lot of investments, a lot of plans on how to change mobility of Rotterdam residents. And they focused on cycling. It's the fietskoers in the middle. A lot of measurements for improving the safety of the city for cycling, for walking around, and a lot of plans to get more green into the city. Well, these are a lot of pictures of the front of the policy programs that we made. I would like to highlight one of them because this is just a little bit different than the other ones. The other ones are all about the physics of the city. And the Gezond 010, het akkoord, you see it on the right, upper right again. This is about an integrated plan on the prevention for healthier people. And in this plan, sport and exercise got quite a good place, which was a winning point for us from the sports department, because normally we would be talking. We would be telling them, we are the believers, we would be telling how important sports and exercise is for a good health. And in this plan, it was a little bit way around. We were invited to participate in making this plan, and we were invited to share our knowledge and to help get the plan right, to reach the people and to make them healthier, but also happier. I included some pictures to show you how in reality the city transformed from being a car-centered city into a city where it's nice to to walk around, to stay just on the little square in front of your house and to play, things like that. So the city has gone quite a metamorphosis in the last years, and I invite you all to come and visit once if you've got some time left, or maybe you can make time to come because it's really a nice city. Then last year we worked on a new sports policy, and I'm very happy that Peter told you all about the sports policy of The Hague, because it's in large part is really similar. We work on sports for all, so we work on sports for all. We've got programs for that. We work on programs for elite sports, to get talents, to find them, to educate them, to develop them, to give them a podium with the nice sports events that we have. We work on the right facilities, both the formal facilities like sports halls and the informal facilities on the streets. And fourth, we work on the impact of sports. So we try to get others to understand what sports can mean for their programs, like maybe someone who's unemployed, he can go to a sports club every week, or maybe twice or 3 times a week, and he can get a daily rhythm again by going there and understanding that he can get up at 9, or believing that he can get up at 9 and proving that he can. And then he can get the experience of working in the canteen or being a hostess at a sports facility. And so he gets the hang of working again, and then he can go back to a normal job. These are the basics of our sports policy. And we included some models or some theories in which we really believe and that we are working on to implement in the coming years. So one important one is the sports circle, or the sports, how do you say circle in English? The sports circle, of course. We've got around the city center, which is really densely built, we've got a ring of parks and sports facilities. And with this sports policy, we decided that we want to keep it there. We don't want it to be built with new housing because we got a real housing problem in the city. But all of the city council, 100% voted for, well, yeah, but they were all positive about this. They decided that we should not cut in the amount of sports facilities or green facilities in our city. The second model that I wanted to show you is that we studied the methods of physical literacy, and with the physical literacy story, you educate the population, not only young people, but also elder people if you want. You can educate them in 4 fields in which they learn that they can trust their bodies to move, that they can move themselves, that they know that their environment accepts them if they move, that they know where to find a place to move. And, oh, this is 4 already. So this is a model that we integrated into our plans and that we are using now to really stimulate people that we work with to find the right reasons why people want to come to sports and to help them to find fun doing sports. Because, well, we think that without fun, people will not be stimulated to act again and again and again and return and return. 2 more minutes. Okay, I'll be fast. So we've also decided we focus on some focal groups, like young people that just go out of elementary school. They drop out of sports participation, and we use esports to get them motivated. And this is a nice plan that I would shortly show you. We proposed a bid to host the grounded part together with The Hague, and we don't know yet whether we will organize it or not, the grounded part of the Tour de France, but we are already organizing a side event program. So we started, we thought this is just such a nice idea. We start this and we will get people enthusiastic and they will come with us and cycle more. The cycling more is one of the focal points. These are kids 12 to 15 years old. They go on these cycles within this truck and they are really happy doing so. So we believe that we can increase sports participation with this plan. And we work together with the mobility plan for the city center. So we can really, we don't only work in sports, but we also work in mobility and adjusting the cycle paths to have a better city for all these people that we want to stimulate to cycle more. Then I come to my final slide, because I started with the question mark, are we already a global active city? We are on the way to discover that. We want to learn and develop because we see that we need to work more cross-sectoral. This is the main thing that when we discussed what should be new in our new sports policy, it was always the cross-sectoral cooperation that was the problem with not really increasing sports participation. So we thought that maybe if we have a focal point and a common ambition to work with our partners in the city to become a global active city, to get that label supported by TAFISA and the IOC, that we could have partners enthusiastic to work with us and to cooperate more. And this is a thought that we have. And we think that maybe when we start cooperating with the other global active cities, then we can learn from them, so we can implement the lessons that we learn into our own sports policy, because we are not perfect, the city is not perfect, and we can always be better. So we are open to learn, and we don't see this as a final point in our sports policy or our development of the city. We see it as a stepping stone in only becoming a better sporting global active city.
Thank you.
Or whatsoever. Thank you for your
Thank you.
attention.
And now it's time for Q&A, and I've learned that I have to use this one. Is that okay, Peter? I can use my own. André, please join us. And you were introduced already, but André is director of the Association of Municipalities and Sport in the Netherlands, but also project leader of EuroCities. And we thought that you are the perfect person to react on all these kind of inspiring stories and policies that we heard. And what are your main thoughts after hearing all these presentations?
I have a lot of thoughts actually, especially when I saw the picture of Wendeline's most favorite picture, but then without the cars. Can you imagine that the former mayor of Rotterdam invites the two professors of the Erasmus University on transition, and he asked, "What can you think about some idea? Do you have any idea how to cooperate with all these cars in the city? It's really jam, etc." And then the professor said, "Yes, just give me a half an hour." And he went out drinking some coffee, went back and said, "I have the solution for you." And the mayor, of course, was really surprised. And what was the answer? Skip the cars. Just don't let them into the center. It can be that easy. For instance, in Guadalajara in Mexico, they on Sunday there are no cars on the streets. It's for playing, running, cycling, etc. It's just an easy way to create, if you don't have any space, to create space to do something together, especially also. I like, we are in the city of The Hague, the International City of Peace and Justice. So, and at this moment, the Invictus Games, these people who are participating here, they give their more than their best for one of the most valuable things in the world. It's probably your freedom. But also, it should be a fundamental right in the City of Peace and Justice, probably as worldwide of the United Nations. It should be a fundamental right for everybody to be possible to be active somehow. And yet, in 200 meters from here, I learned from Peter, but I know more or less the way here. There is an area where we saw on the picture of Wendeline with the metro. That can you believe that the Netherlands is in the top 5 of the biggest economies in the world? Always. And still, we are one of the healthiest countries in the world. But that's not for everybody. So we know in 200 meters from here, it's not true. In the metro line, we see it's not true. So even the Netherlands look like the Valhalla of everything. We have a lot of money, we have all the infrastructure, we have everything, and yet we have big problems.
Yeah.
And if we go on like this in the Netherlands, in 2040, at this moment, we have 17 million people here, inhabitants in the Netherlands, and we will have about 80 billion euros for healthcare costs. And it will be in 2040, it will be about 180 billion euros. We cannot afford that. Can you imagine that if the people who are from what is it, 32 countries, 41 countries,
42 countries,
they are thinking, what is your problem in the Netherlands? But we have a big problem, and we realize, and probably the best thing, and I'm going to say something cruel, but the best thing for sports and physical activity for the believers is that COVID arrived. Because if there is anyone at this moment who can who can say that they don't believe in this dividing situation, the haves and the have-nots, the people who are arrived in hospitals with underlying diseases, we know where it comes from. We know where it comes from, and we shouldn't talk about what is necessary. There was a question, of course, that it was the right question from Faros, the Knowledge Institute, but how do you going to do this and how do you going to do that? But why is not the question what will happen if we don't do it? What will cost then for us? What will happen? And we know already.
Yeah, you mean when we don't invest in sport?
When we don't invest in infrastructure, in the hardware, software, orgware, it is of course it's related. But what will happen?
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that in this metro line you can draw everywhere around Europe, around the world. And we don't have the luxury to change that because every square meters in the cities, and there were already the figures for Paulo. What is the problem with the cities? It's growing and growing and growing. So every square meter is maybe 1 million euros.
Yeah.
So when I have one soccer pitch, artificial grass, etc., and can you imagine what is the value of this to go 30 department stocks high? It's a lot of money. So we have to fight. But why fight for infrastructure and high buildings if everybody dies earlier than other people?
Are there any other questions from the audience, also for the other speakers, for Wendeline or for Michael? We do have a few minutes left. Rick, please stand up. Oh, you will do that? Okay, okay. I know Rick Slegers. He's from the Orange Sport Forum, and he said already to me, I have a question. So please, share it short, please.
Orange Sports Forum. Thank you first of all for all the presentations. I got a clear view from the public side of sports, the city of Rotterdam, city of The Hague, the European Union. But I'm also very curious about the role of the private sector. So the companies, what can they do to support with these challenges, to develop innovations, etc.? What's your opinion about that?
Well, actually, it's easily it's the infrastructure of every city is people, is organizations, is education, is companies, and so also on sports. Open space is also of course important. But so you have to sit together. It's not a problem of the municipality. It's not a bankomat where you can go and receive money and do something. You have to do it together. You live there all together, and so we have to change our mind in neighborhoods where there are the haves, the neighborhoods where there have nots. How we can change? Maybe is here a good instructor who better is instructor in the other area, but we have to speak about it. It's not a problem for the public or private. We are all people. We are all citizens.
We have, I think, only one question left because it's already nearly 12:15. So maybe somebody has one question. No.
Maybe a question.
Yeah. Yes, please. But please stand up.
Okay. Yeah. I think it's also in terms of interest that it's also the interest for the private sector to be relevant in dense cities, to be relevant in dense cities where also you have profits from an open economy, from an accessible economy, and I think like André said, it's not public or private. But if you see the challenges for which we stand, and if I see the challenges for which the private sector stands, let's talk about solutions. And solutions will be how do we deal with the space problem? How do we deal with density? How do we deal with vitality? And in which way we can help each other to find solutions which are good for the public sector and which are also good for the private sector. Because without private sector, there's no public sector, and without public sector, there's no private sector in the Western world.
Thank you very much, Peter. And that will be the conclusion of our live stream. But not before I will thank André de Jeugd. Thank you very much. And of course, Dorien is somewhere near me. But I want to share with the viewers of the live stream that we will have the registration of the whole live stream later on the Tavisa channels. That we also will have a short video about the whole day, the full day experience, because we here in the audience, here in the Sport Campus, we will have a nice afternoon program with a keynote of the Professor Sanne de Vries. And we have also some group work about the neighborhood where Peter was talking about the neighborhood. How can you make changes in a neighborhood with not many possibilities for sport and physical activity? And also what I want to mention is that you will get a short survey, and please fill it in. It's nice for us to have your comments. So thank you all viewers from 42 countries, and we hope to see you back in one of our the Tavisa events in the coming months. Thank you.